Good morning to all of you. My name is Natarajan. I represent EGS Computers India Private Limited. I hope you are able to listen to the audio as well as the presentation. Today's presentation is entitled The Digital Transformation, How to Control Electrical Panel Costs. I hope you enjoy this presentation and it's informative for your requirements. If you are having problems with regard to the audio or the slideshow, please do ping me on the chat and I'll be glad to assist you. Let's get on with the presentation. It's important for us to understand that in electrical panel costs, the order conversion ratio is dependent on the price that we provide to the customer. And there are a lot of tangible and intangible costs which build up the pricing. Before we go through that, let's look at the agenda. The current challenges faced by electrical panel manufacturers, the current electrical panel design process, how the dynamic bill of material based cost estimation would be helpful in arriving at costs, identifying the cost indicators, benefits of the proposed process, and we will summarize. Before we proceed with that, let's look at the profile of EGS India, our vision and mission statements. We provide engineering development through effective partnership. The mission being imparting leading edge technology in training and development, problem solving, and new product development through consulting services and providing software solutions and technical support. We have 4 offices with our headquarters in Chennai, followed by our rest of Tamil Nadu headquarters in Coimbatore, with an operations in Trichy and a training division in Chennai as well. Our business model comprises of engineering services through new product design and development, design validation, dimensional management, which is in terms of design for quality, and value engineering extensions. Our software solutions go with Dassault Systems SOLIDWORKS products in terms of the CAD, the electrical CAD, the simulation, the product data management tool, and then the tolerance simulations and the data security kit. And technology training we provide in the area of computer-aided engineering, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, tolerance stacks, failure modes and effects analysis, design for manufacture and assembly, and popular CAD tools and FEA tools. When we look at today's presentation, the objective of it is to keep the costs low as far as our electrical panels are concerned. They form the heart of any system, any electromechanical system. The current challenges are loss to competition on predatory pricing. This is uppermost in the minds of most of the business owners. The cost of poor quality undermining the profitability, not to speak of the trust. The long lead time in execution, probably because of customers changing demands as well as the gap between the customer expectations and our understanding. Performance issues that come in, improper documentation, dearth of talent required to complete the projects on time, especially with so many jobs being available today to competent engineers. And also in terms of talents, not being available because of the bridge between what is available by the colleges and what is being required by the industry. And the last one is no knowledge reuse. These are the current challenges. The knowledge reuse attributes to the things gone wrong and the things gone right. When we look at all these challenges, there are 3 different attributes that we need to look at. One is the cost, the second one is the time, and third one is the quality. If these 3 indices are addressed right from the initial customer engagement till the invoicing of the customer, then 9 out of 10 times it's a winning proposition between the customer and our service providers in the electrical panel industry. When we look at the current design process, we see that from an end user point of view, it is cumbersome and unproductive tools, using general purpose tools rather than purpose built ones, lack of common reusable libraries leading to more times. And from a management perspective, islands of development, electrical designers working separately, the mechanical ones working separately, then combining their efforts and putting it together. The electromechanical design teams integrates only towards the end of the process. And the collaboration is meeting intensive, conference intensive, rather than being an automated process oriented approach. Integration is done in the shop or on the field. So in other words, if customers are doing it in the shop, it's rework. If it is on the field, it is rework, but still it is going to be more expensive. So it comes under the list of the things gone wrong. So if we are looking at any change in a process, the first thing we need to understand is there's an input to a process, there's the process itself, and there is an output from the process. Let us say we look at and analyze how many orders we have quoted, and out of those orders, how many have really fructified into an order, how many inquiries we have addressed, and how many have really translated into orders. And we look at the data mining with regard to that, you would see that the cost is the primary contributor towards not being able to take over from inquiry to an order. So cost is of two types. One is the cost as we see it that we put in the bill of materials. The second one is the cost that bleeds us with regard to the quality issues that come in or the reliability issues that come in after the product has been shipped to the customer place. So both these have to be brought in place and kept in check, which means that a process-oriented approach has to be there. And nothing better than going through a digital transformation in this process, as a result of which each person who's a stakeholder in the process gets by with his work being done and contributes to the process so that it accelerates towards invoicing the customer in the least possible time. Now, coming into the result of adopting a process of this kind is the errors that come in, the time overruns which come in, the cost overrun which happens, the inability to meet the customer expectations on time, and as a result of all of this, the reduced profitability, these intrinsic attributes get addressed. Looking at the right side, if we do a digital transformation in 3 dimensions, with integrating the 2D schematics as well as the 3D libraries and putting things together in a configurable manner, even at the inquiry state, we get a near net shape bill of materials, which would help us to eliminate the cost assumptions that would go in a typical bidding process. As a result of this, the added advantages the customer gets to see even before signing off on a purchase order with you, the customer gets to see what he is going to get, what he or she is going to get. So what you see is what you get becomes the norm now. As a result of which, communicating what we are intending to supply to the customer earns the trust of the customer more so at the RFQ stage itself, thereby eliminating the gap between the customer expectations and our understanding or the limitations of what we offer. So to address this, the digital transformation is the way to go. So in other words, if we have a checklist-based design, we are transforming from a person-specific approach to a process-centric approach in terms of mistake proofing. So irrespective of who comes into the department, because of HR issues, because of so many other things, the checklist-driven process delivers time and again with a lot of mistake proofing built into it. So for example, in the case of an electrical panel, eliminating the incomplete wire routing, which you see when you are going on to the customer's place, identification of unused cables. These are some of the examples of a checklist. Estimating the voltage drop in cables, resolving the equipotential conflicts, verification of components with circuit that are not assigned to a part, avoiding duplication in connection points, symbols, same location, equipotential, etc. And then checking for wires without marking. These are simple things which we would be able to put together as a checklist based design. So irrespective of what tool a person uses as a process, they would be in compliance with what is required in alignment with the goals of the organization, namely bottom line profitability. So if we have digital transformation of this kind happening in the organization, and as you can see in the next slide, you would be able to see the checklist based verification which is coming in, and I'll zoom in a little bit. You will see that the design rules check can be dynamically put in as far as the customer's requirements are concerned, and the rules can be changed according to customer specific templates or generic templates, and you can see that all the information you get a heads up at the design stage itself as a result of going through a verification of the design rules which are built into the process. Now, by doing this, you are moving away from a person-centric approach to a process-centric approach, as a result of which the knowledge gets reused in the organization, irrespective of the hierarchy of the person in the organization, but according to the roles and responsibilities of the people or the stakeholders. So like this, if we are enabling a digital transformation process, it helps us to go forward and establish a rule-based design wherein all the loopholes that currently exist in a non-transparent process between electrical and mechanical and the customer gets bridged, leading to a win-win situation and getting it first time right. The second thing is, with regard to opportunities to reduce cost, if we were to go back to the costing of a product, we need to understand that 85% of the product cost is determined by design, and it is driven by the bill of materials, which starts with the proposal stage. In other words, if the gross estimation of the bill of materials happens at the proposal stage, then factoring in the various aspects of it and inflating the costs reduces our ability to win orders. In other words, at the design stage, at the proposal stage itself, the design department has to be an enabler to give priorities to the salespeople so that multiple configurations for various price points can be established, and you go to winning the order based on a purpose which is coming from this price point, comes from this configuration, and so on and so forth. So in other words, right from inquiry stage itself, the BOM or the bill of material forms the basis for getting the project bill of material. In other words, the budget bill of material for project, once the order is signed off, is inherited directly from the inquiry bill of materials. Now the inquiry bill of materials going to the project bill of materials and looking at what other things got added which never got factored into the costing calculations at the inquiry stage would throw a lot of light in the organization as to where the money is going. In addition to that, eliminating the errors in design with a checklist based approach, as we had seen in the previous slide, would help us to eliminate errors, the bottom of the iceberg, and the quality issues that derive from it. Stage-wise cost breakup to understand the contribution of the resources, which could be in design or engineering, which could be in manufacturing, which could be in supply chain, so on and so forth, and how the value gets added to the material, and how the material process, the costs associated with material are kept under control, and time, which is the biggest killer in terms of the profitability of an organization, is kept in check. Now we need to understand one thing, and that is the opportunity cost, which never gets covered in any of the processes that we put together in our country today. The opportunity cost is the loss of a business opportunity or the ability to invoice the customer ahead of our schedule so that we can move on to the next project, or doing more projects in lesser number of time, or improving the productivity per project. All these are directly affecting the opportunity cost. And last but not the least, the elimination of site rework by putting data to effective reuse and making available of data to the site people with the relevant revisions for that particular project being up to date is one of the things which can eliminate the rework which happens at site. We need to understand the cost of any product is determined by design, as I said earlier. In addition to that, the profitability of a company lies in its scrapyard. In other words, if we eliminate the wastes which come as a result of the process or the lack of it, which comes as a result of improper utilization of material and or time, then that's exactly where the profit of our organization lies. So coming back to the different opportunity costs, as you can see in the next slide, you will see a bill of material comparison. In this case, it is a gripper project as taken as a sample in this interface in product data management, wherein you can see, as I zoom into the picture over here, the bill of material on the left side is the one that was used as a configurable BOM at the inquiry stage, and later on the customer required server control and it got added onto at the project stage, and it never got accommodated at the pricing stage. So in other words, with a transparent approach of this kind, one would be in a position to estimate what is the bill of material at the initial inquiry stage, and what is the bill of material subsequently down the line when it comes to project execution. So as you can see, the costs build up, and you can see what are all the new items that got added, items that got changed. Sometimes it could be a quantity which was arrived at improperly at the inquiry stage, but it got augmented and corrected at the project execution stage. Items which were removed to control costs or no change, all these information heads up adds dynamically at any part of the project execution, gives both the stakeholders as well as the management the ability to arrive at near net costs and the indicators of where things are going right and things are going wrong with regard to the cost estimate. We need to understand at this point of time that cost is not a single amount. In other words, the estimation of cost at the proposal stage would be different as compared to the cost actually incurred at the time of invoicing. It could be because of the material variation, it could be because of rework, it could be because of so many other dynamic factors which come into picture. In other words, a design taken at the proposal stage could have a different costing coming out of the software as compared to the same bill of materials having a different costing at the proposal execution stage, which is the project management side. In other words, we need to be understanding that the cost is dynamic, and we should be in a position to fathom the cost indicators, the influencers, and forecast the cost at the time of delivery of the product so that we can see how much of profitability gets affected as a result of that. The next slide you would see is to deal with your notification management. The lifeline of any organization is getting information upon demand. We seem to be relying more on meetings and on mobiles to get information and through emails as compared to getting it online, depending on whether it could be an inquiry, it could be a project, it could be a document, it could be parts comprising of the electrical panel, it could be a bill of materials, it could be a change request which is coming either from manufacturing or from customer or from sales or internally from design. And what actions have been taken. For example, you will see here all the inquiries at the inquiry stage, in what stages of the life cycle they are, and who is the stakeholder who is affected by it, and what are the bill of materials, what are the documents relevant to that. This information helps us to alleviate upon a lot of costs that would have otherwise we would have incurred. In other words, in any electrical design and development process of a control panel, the life cycle management of that and the integration of the processes is mandatory for us to see how to keep the costs under control and how to eliminate wastage while improving the profitability in the organization. As you can see in the next slide, you would see normally we say that the mechanical department works in a silo, the electrical department works in a different silo, and they keep looking at how to integrate these two either at the sign off stage towards the end or towards site integration. Now imagine if a common bill of material is available to the entire team as shown over here, where the electromechanical device involving both the electrical and the mechanical. In this case, it's a gripper. It could be an electrical panel involving a lot of mechanical sheet metal components coming together and actuating systems coming together if it's automated. And then you can see how in what life cycle each one are, and this would be easier for us to integrate with the ERP so that a person would be in a position to arrive at the near net cost at any stage of the life cycle, could be at the inquiry, could be at the execution stage. The advantage of going through by this method is if something gets changed in electrical, the mechanical knows about it. If something is changed in mechanical, electrical knows about it. One opportunity for us to keep the costs low. I keep emphasizing the point that cost is mandatory in every aspect of what we do. The breakup of the cost between mechanical and electrical at the proposal stage, or being in the know of it, what was considered, not really the exact cost, but the cost distribution itself being considered, and in the detail engineering stage would help us to alleviate a lot of assumptions and the cost reprioritization that would help us to stay profitable. This is important from the point of view of understanding that at any point of time, the bill of material keeps changing, and we need to be conscious about the fact that it is important that we need to see how the costs can be controlled from both the mechanical as well as from the electrical side. What is the advantage of this? Everyone is in sync with the design and development process through the execution, right from the inquiry all the way till the end. Elimination of the rework and communicating everything in a digital transformation in 3D, right from the RFQ stage towards the end, would enable the customer to understand in a transparent manner what is the product you are planning to deliver and whether there are any assumptions that need to be factored in. And the elimination of rework, the first time right, the cost drivers getting to be known upfront, the target cost driven panel development process, and a clear visibility of the things gone wrong and the things gone right. This orientation, it is very important for us to understand that this orientation, if it happens early upfront at the RFQ stage, then the whole design department as well as the manufacturing, the materials which syncs through the ERP, as well as the downstream supply chain is all in sync, including the suppliers, so that we will be in a position to get all the options upfront to stay cost competitive. One of the things which is very important is the price escalation which comes from the supplier after you have won the order. By putting this process together and keeping the supply chain involved at every stage of the decision making process, in addition to having the ability to convert the inquiries into orders with a higher ratio, enabling the supply chain to be a stakeholder and making them feel comfortable with the same and making them feel important drives home a successful product development. Simple examples are the quality issues that you have seen in as reported by the customer after you have delivered a product could be a starting place for a checklist subsequently down the line. So in other words, in electrical panel, the value addition that comes from innovation is actually driven only if we are able to concentrate on the innovation more than the mundane quality and the reliability issues that come as a result of not having checks and balances in our process. Every one of them eats into the cost. So in other words, it is important for us to understand that the digital transformation that has happened in the mobile world needs to be happening in our processes in the organization so that we can digitally transform our process so that information is available to individuals in the organization across the broad spectrum of the stakeholders. So in other words, the benefits of the digital transformation approach as laid out in this presentation helps us to achieve robust and reliable designs, translating into reliable products, reduce the process variations that come in either in the manufacturing process or in the process driven approach that we are putting together, so that we know we have given an input X, we have gone through a process, we have gotten an output Y. So y is equal to f of x. Without changing the input, without changing the process, how can we expect a different output? Why? So the process variations can be reduced so that the near net output as desired by us or by our customer is protected. Enhanced confidence in supplier capabilities, better controlled process changes, first time right, reduced cost of non-conformance. This is very important because the concept of non-conformance could stop us from raising the invoice or getting paid. So in other words, all the non-conformance costs are at the bottom of the iceberg, which never gets seen outside. A customer feedback prompting us to race to the customer's place overnight to take care of a non-conformance issue is costly, both in terms of the tangible costs as well as in terms of the intangible costs. Instant feedback to all stakeholders across the spectrum of product design, development, and launch by the notification management in the process helps us to make decisions at the right levels at the right time. So the least cost products with a higher order win ratio is the denominator from establishing this process so that people can be in a position to win orders and stay profitable. There are different kinds of simulations. I have not touched upon simulations over here, primarily because the what if scenarios can be put together. That comes in on the design for quality approach upfront, so that in the design and development process, if quality takes the front seat in design itself, 9 out of 10 times the problems get resolved even before they arise. A problem solved at the design stage could cost nearly nothing, while if it is at the tooled up stage, it could cost a fortune, maybe 10 times over. And if it is reported at the customer side, then it's a monumental cost. So in other words, in a price sensitive market with regard to electrical panels, if we look at how our competitors are winning orders, especially larger orders with innovative products, and staying in the blue ocean as compared to the red ocean strategy that we typically go with, we will see that the cost estimation is one of the prime drivers for staying profitable. The profitability hinges on three things, as we had said: a priori cost estimation at the design stage itself, either in the RFQ or subsequently down the line, or managing those costs effectively so that we can douse the fires, and staying profitable as we thought we were going to stay profitable when we got the order, when we are executing it and invoicing the customer. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. This presentation is a small introduction to the design process itself, incorporating the best-in-class design technologies when it comes to electrical product design, while introducing the lifecycle management as a part of the initiative, keeping cost as the primary driver so that we can stay profitable. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I'll leave open the floor for any question that you may have with regard to this presentation so that we can try and address the same. There is a chat box at the bottom. You may want to put in your chat questions or send me a message in private so that I can answer those questions as they come by. I leave the floor open to questions. You have mentioned that the costs of an electrical panel can be estimated at the design stage. Can it be done for both mechanical as well as electrical? Yes. And typically, since it's a sheet metal driven design for most of the electrical panels, the process routing which takes place through the stage wise development of the sheet metal, those factors can also be introduced and factored in as a part of the dynamic costing process. Is 2D and 3D integrated in your SOLIDWORKS Electrical? Yes, 2D and 3D both are integrated in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, and it's also integrated with the product data management tool, lifecycle management tool, so that dynamically you can go through and see what is happening. It can be brought in. Can we calculate the wire length calculation automatically? This is one of the biggest cost drivers which I did not touch upon because it comes from the bill of materials. It was intrinsically told over there. So yes, the wire length calculation is routed in 3D, and with the dynamic change in the schematic, the 3D changing and the bill of material changing is automatically done as a part of the process, so that the near net shape calculation is done at the beginning stage itself. Yes, it can be done. Next question is, one more question over here. In terms of integration at the customer site, we always see that there is a lot of interference coming, as a result of which we had to do the rework at the customer site. Yes, interference detection is a part of the process. It can be put as a part of the checklist, and it can be automatically verified and institutionalized in the digital transformation, so that people can look at it and see whether it has been done before the sign off happens on the drawings, both in schematic as well as in 3D as well as in bill of materials. Now, one thing I need to emphasize is, in a control panel industry, pretty much the product structure is known, and typically this is kept in the ERP system. However, configurable products or products with special requirements is where a lot of people struggle to put together, because it is driven by the design, where it is not known a priori. This is exactly where the data management and the digital transformation through the digital processes incorporated as a part of the inquiry stage itself would help us to bring about a transformation wherein all these things can be done at the inquiry stage itself, and the same thing can be transferred over to the other stakeholders, as including the customer, subsequently when the project comes to fruition. Can we do cross-ferruling in SOLIDWORKS Electrical? Yes, cross-ferruling can be done in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, and it would be reflected upon in your bill of materials as well. Any other questions? Is revision control, version control integrated for both electrical and mechanical together? Absolutely. The electrical and the mechanical revision control is the mainstay of any lifecycle management toolkits. Some people do not do the electrical part of it because it's an afterthought, but essentially the way we do it and the way our customers do it, electrical becomes the mainstay, and the revision and the version control gets done so that every stakeholder is informed and notified, as you have seen over here. Just give me a minute. I will be in a position to bring about the picture. If you see the notification over here, you will see, as I zoom in, you will see that the inquiry, projects, documentation, parts, BOM, change request, and the action taken, all these things are a part of the notification management as shown over here in the zoomed in view of the system. So here every information is coming in, and the revision control and the version control. Version control is when you go through the design process. Revision control is through the change request. It gets happened automatically through the organization's hierarchy. It could be initiated, the change request could be initiated from sales, could be initiated from the customer through sales, from management through a product change, from manufacturing through a requirement which is downstream, or it could be from supply chain, any which way it is. If there are any further questions, we'll be glad to answer the same. Do you have standard libraries? Yes, standard libraries and also user-defined libraries can be put in as a part of the process. In fact, standard libraries is what we need to exploit in our lifecycle management, so that configurable bill of materials can be brought about even before design is engaged, so that product costing can be done. So yes, it is available, and it can also be configured to the customer practices, and we have been doing it for our customers. If there are no further questions, please visit us at egsindia.com, and you have a technology series coming every month in terms of webinars in alignment with the customer requirements. You can also follow on Twitter at AGS India or at the rate AGS SolidWorks, or write to us on info@ags.co.in, and we would be glad to share with you some of the best-in-class practices as required as institutionalized and incorporated with our customers. Thank you very much for attending today's presentation. We hope you enjoyed this presentation and found it to be useful. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.